Hey everybody, it's Josh. I'm on my way home from Pennsylvania. Stopped off at a place in West Virginia right now, and hoping to see the New River Gorge today. So maybe I'll be able to do a video from there, but just gonna take it in. Need to see the beauty in my life because times are pretty tough right now. I wanted to do a video real quick. I say real quick, but it sometimes turns into a long thing. But I wanted to talk about why people, especially young people, are so put off and opposed to Christianity. Obviously, that's not everybody. There's young people who are Christians. There are plenty of Christians that are young. But in general, our society has made Christianity into a joke. And I know the reason for that. I think most Christians who think about it long enough do. It's the churches. If you were able to understand the story of Christ, the teachings of Christ, the essence of Christ, you would instantly know love. So why did it become a joke in our society? You know, one of the funniest, and some of the stuff is just so good. I mean, you know, the South Park episodes. I was talking to my sister about how I used to go to a Presbyterian church and we'd sing the traditional hymns and stuff. And now it seems like every church has the electric band playing Christian rock and just these songs that just, oh man. I know some people get into it and some people love it. I just think it's just not doing you guys any favors, not doing any Christians any favors, because nobody's like jamming that stuff. If you had a Christian song, like I remember Creed, I think they're actually coming back this year. I think they're touring right now. They had some, you know, they're not a Christian band per se, but they had a lot of songs that were, you know, Christian in nature. But you need someone like that to actually have a good song. I get it. The Christians, some Christians just think anything about Jesus is just awesome. And Jesus is awesome. But you're not drawing people in with your Christian music, your Christian rock. I'm just sorry, you're not. Now, I'm a huge Christmas song fan, the traditional Christmas songs. You know, I used to sing Silent Night to both my daughters when they still could stand to hear me sing, going to bed. But it's not the Christian rock. That was something the churches tried to do to try to draw in younger people, or try to get younger people interested and engaged, and look, hey, we got electric bands, I get it. A lot of young people don't want to go and sit in the old boring church and listen to old hymns, and I get it, I understand, but do better, come on. But that's not what this is about. The churches, oh, got a mosquito there. There we go. The churches let Christianity down long ago. They started turning into the old lady or the old man who's screaming, "Get off my lawn," and, you know, you're going to hell if you're doing that. I remember seeing a a play. When I was in school, one of my friends took me to see this play that they had at their church, and I was like, okay, we'll go. And it was literally everything you're doing, you're going to hell. You know, the girl's depressed, she's sitting there drinking her alcohol, and then all of a sudden the devil comes out, you're going to hell. You know, just all going through all the sins, telling you you're going to hell. You don't draw people in like that. Jesus taught love and compassion. And he taught that everything you do to serve others and to connect with God. You connected with God, and you really, this is why, okay, when I'm telling someone, when I'm trying to guide someone into having a personal relationship with God, I tell them to go to the source. I tell them to find that connection with God inside of them. Now, if they have a background in Christianity and they haven't been spurned by it, it's a great place to start. It's a great place. But I needed to know from God. I was like, what? I see all these different religions and all these New Age spiritualities, and I need to know, for me, what the best way to connect with you is. Because I lost God. I felt the presence of God when I was from the age of 12 to the age of, we'll say, 21. I felt him 4 times, and I knew it was God. I knew it was. The first time, it was Jesus. And I was at a Bible camp, and they started reading about the crucifixion and the suffering that Jesus went through. And these were teenagers just reading this and doing this. And they got so passionate about it, and they read it like it's supposed to be. Because you have to be able to relate. That is one of the greatest things about Christ, is you can relate to him. You can relate. God knew we could not relate to someone out of space and time. We could say, oh, fear God and worship him, but he's out of space and time. We don't understand. Was he going to reach his hand in here and just drag us to hell? Who knows what happens with a being outside of space and time? I absolutely love God, but I can't relate to him in that way. When he made himself flesh, when he walked the earth, when he suffered more than almost any human has suffered. For what? For being a man of love and compassion. And it shows you the stark contrast of good and evil. But my father, I've talked about him before. One of the greatest men I know. He gets mad when we call him a saint, but he really is. He'll give you the shirt off his back. He is the kindest person there I've ever met. And the church turned their back on him, and he didn't say it, but I knew that his faith was shaken. He was just so let down by the hypocrites and the egocentric people that were in the church when he needed them the most. So he gave everything he had to everyone, living the way Christ lived, living the way Christ wanted him to live. No one's is perfect like Christ, and my dad's certainly not perfect. That's why he got angry when we used to call him a saint, because he didn't feel he was as good a person as he really was. He didn't want people to think that of him, because he didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it for thank yous. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And when he lost his faith, or it was really shaken, it was devastating for me too. And I think that's what kind of, even though I felt the presence of Christ so powerfully, that was the first time I ever felt God. When he lost it, I started to drift away from even the thought of Christianity. Now I thought Jesus was just a great man and spreading love and all that, but the Christian churches just tainted it for me. They really did. So when I actually, over 20 years went by, actually almost exactly 20 years, and I finally was at a lowest point in my life, and God came to me and spoke to me that first time, and I finally understood his messages. He told me, it's finally time for you to start fulfilling your purpose. And I know I've said it a lot. The first thing he sent me to do was to study all those religions, study all the spiritualities, do all the philosophies, everything. I was like, okay, yeah. So maybe I was on the right track. The teachings of Christ are a good staple and maybe a good foundation, but I'll add some New Age spirituality. I'll add some, Buddhism. I'll add all this. And I kept, every time I would study New Age spirituality or something like that, like the manifesting thing, I knew right away, because God was telling me, this is not the way. This is something that you can learn as like a tool, but this is not the way. This is all ego right here. This is all about me. Manifest for me. Give me what I want. The Secret, or the lady was on Oprah and all that stuff. You'll have to excuse me. I'm getting bit up by, it just rained here. Now the mosquitoes are out. So I was like, okay, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And then I kept looking, and I was like, well, Buddhism, they don't even really teach a God. Buddha was kind of like the God figure, but not really. Hinduism, they have their own little sect of God, or little pantheon of gods, and all the mythologies have their pantheon of gods, and I needed what God was showing me, what God had already showed me. He gave me the wisdom, but he wanted me to find out for myself exactly how I'm supposed to worship and I'm supposed to help others. And all roads led back to Christ for me. And the reason I'm doing another video on this, I know I've talked about this quite a bit. Whenever I do bring it up, I get a couple mad people in the comments and saying, talking about like how, you're believing in a fairy tale, like the Tooth Fairy's real too, is you can believe what you want, but I mean I was about to say condensation. Condescending tones of them. You can hear it through the typing. But I like when people like that watch my videos. I like when they start engaging, because you know what, it's not their fault. Maybe they grew up in a strict religious family and they just never saw the love in the teachings of Christ. All they saw was the control that the people use in the name of Christ, but it's not Christ. That's not Christ. That's not his teachings. Christ and real Christians, when they see you doing something wrong, they try to, with love and compassion, steer you in the right way. I will never, ever demand anybody think like I do, worship like I do. I can tell you my story and how I went from the most miserable man, really no meaning in my life, no direction, no purpose, to peaceful and joyful overnight. I mean, within an hour, this change happened to me. And it hasn't worn off. With the New Age spirituality, they talk about their spiritual awakenings and how they have such a blissful time because they're finally sensing that there's something else out there. There's a spiritual realm, but they have what they call a dark night of the soul. And I was like, oh no. Is that what's going to happen to me? Is this peace going to just wear off? Am I going to just be depressed like I was before? I've already been through my depression. I've already been through all that. I've been having a dark night of the soul for 13 years. That's not good. It's been over a year and a half, and it hasn't worn off a bit. If anything, it's gotten stronger. Me seeing my mom in the hospital, she's not doing great. You know, I came up to Pennsylvania because my dad was sick and in the hospital. I came up to see him to help with my mom because she needs full-time care. And then, as soon as I made plans and all that, that's when my mom, they let her check herself out of the hospital for some reason because she always wants to go home. She got home, my sister and my dad could not do anything for her because she couldn't move. And my sister was getting her up. She was using her walker. She always gets her walker and walks to her little bathroom over there. And she just got up and she just collapsed right on top of the walker. Broke everything. Now they're saying she might have fractures in her back. She screams in pain when you move her because of her hip. I would have absolutely just been in a panic fear state this whole time. Of course, my dad, so worried about him because we thought he was going to die. We thought he had sepsis. And like a third of the people don't make it from that. And he was just coming off a stent put in his neck and coming off Ozempic that had destroyed his whatever into his insides. And now it's shifted to my mom. If my peace that God gave me and Christ strengthened even more would have worn off, like that dark night of the soul in New Age spirituality, or that, you know, coming to terms that they didn't find God. The New Age spirituality people, They think they found God. They just found their own soul. And their ego is way too attached to their own soul. So their ego is just telling them, yeah, let's manifest some wealth. Let's manifest some this. That's not anything that God wants. If God wants you to be wealthy, he's going to put you on a path to make you wealthy. It's going to be for your purpose. If God wants you to be poor, he's wanted me to be poor, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Sure, it's not fun. It's not fun at all, being poor. Of course I want enough money to be comfortable, to be able to breathe, but I can breathe just fine. And all of a sudden, we're living paycheck to paycheck, and we're seeing, wow, now we've got a little extra money. We got enough money to where it's not like suffocating us now. Things happened here and there. It just came into our lives just in so many different ways, and it's we don't have tons of money, not by any stretch. Don't get me wrong, I'm still broke because I've got debt, but I've got enough to breathe now. And I see the more that I do, because I don't get paid to do YouTube or anything. I don't care if I ever get paid anything for any of this. This is what I'm meant to do. I would give my life for this because it's what God told me to do. So the young people especially, or people, middle-aged people, they see Christ as a joke. They see Christianity as just a mockery. And now, the ones who wanted to do anything they wanted, it started long before that, obviously, but I remember hearing about, how they would get, say Elvis was like doing the devil because he was shaking his hips and all these things, and rock and roll was the devil, and you listen to it, you're going to hell, and what kind of garbage is that? Being kind to people, I understand it's not enough. The salvation is not about only serving others. There's many religions that tell you to serve others. Buddhism, I think that's all. It's about peace and serving others. So I thought, oh, hey, that'd probably be a lot in that for me. But aside from their meditation and understanding and getting like a higher consciousness and all that, I do that walking through the woods. I do that in different ways, besides sitting there and meditating like that. But I have that peace all the time because I am doing what God has told me to do. And he let me know that as long as my faith in him is strong, it's not going to be easy for sure. It's going to get harder and harder. And then there's going to be times of peace in my life. But you're going to carry that peace and that heaven, that joy, seeing the beauty around me. You're going to see that as long as your faith is strong in me. So that's what I did. I just followed him, and the dark night of the soul never happened. I never had any of that new age spirituality stuff. I studied Stoicism for a good bit, and that is like basically just bottling your emotions up and not showing any any fear or not showing you're scared. You don't be scared. And I don't have the fears like I used to. Of course, I can get scared if my daughters are in danger, or my wife or whoever. I get worried, but I'm not fearful like I was. There's a huge difference between that small fear and that. Okay, I will do more on this later. I have a lot more to say about it, but it's starting to rain pretty hard, so I better head on back to my car and see if I can get down to the New River Gorge. It's a magnificent place. It really is. I love you all. I'm reading the comments. I won't be able to respond as much, but I will try to get to as many as I can. Thank you for your prayers about my mother. I will keep you posted on that. God bless.